Hi, my name is Jimena, and today I'm going to talk about the history of the sign language. So, let's begin. Since the beginning of time and even before the use of phonetic language, sign language has existed as a way to communicate. A clear example that we can mention is that of the American Indians in the Great Plains region of North America, who used sign language to communicate between different ethnic groups, which lasted until the early 20th century. However, there are no records of this before the 17th century. One of the first writings that speaks of sign language is Plato's Cratylus, in which he mentions that if we have neither the tongue nor the voice, we could try to communicate through signs of the hand, the head, and the whole body. In the Middle Ages, sign language was mainly used in abbeys by monks. In the 16th century, the Spanish monk considered as the first teacher of the deaf, Pedro Ponce de León, created a school for the deaf in the monastery of San Salvador in Oña, Castilla y León. He used a manual alphabet based on the monastic sign language used by the monks who had taken a vow of silence. In 1620, Juan de Pablo Bonet published his work Reduction of the Letters and Art for Teaching to Talk to Deaf in Madrid, considered the first modern treatise on phonetics in sign language that established an oral teaching method for the deaf, as well as manual alphabet. As time went by, other schools and institutions were created in the rest of Europe and the world: France, Italy, United States, among others. Today, there are several sign languages that differ from each other both in the lexicon, this means the set of signs or gestural signs, and in the grammar. Since the 1980s, several specialists and sociologists have become much more interested in sign language, which is finally recognized as full-fledged language in several countries around the world. Mexican Sign Language, or LSM, because of its acronym in Spanish, is the language of the deaf community in Mexico and consists of a series of gestural signs articulated with the hands and accompanied by facial expressions, intentional gaze, and body movement. Endowed with linguistic function, is part of the linguistic heritage of the community and is as rich and complex in grammar and vocabulary as any oral language. On April 15, 1861, Benito Juárez, who was interim constitutional president of the United Mexican States, decreed a law of instruction. In the section corresponding to primary instruction, Article 3 states the creation of a school for deaf mutes. The objective of the school were to find the teaching of Spanish in its written form by means of a manual and oral alphabet. In the 80s, the philosophy of total communication began to use in special education schools, where written techniques, symbols, gestures, among others, could be used to enable deaf people to communicate.